My people, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since we've been together on a Sunday, live from my studio to your living room, to you on your walk, on your way, on your journey throughout this day. It's an honor to be with you. Today, we're starting a conversation entitled All in the Family. I want to ask you a question. What do you think of when you see this picture? Yeah, I took you back, didn't I? Good Times, Family Matters, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Cosby Show, This Is Us, and of course, All in the Family. When I see that photo, man, my mind goes way back to afternoons in my living room, watching television with my family, laughing at jokes I understood, not laughing at jokes that went over my head, looking at my parents sideways when they were watching the family shows a little before my time, the reruns. You know what I'm talking about. Not really understanding what it was doing for them, but it was taking them back in time. And now that I have a family of my own and I'm watching certain reruns, it's the same feelings all over again. I love the shows of the 80s and the 90s and like This Is Us in the 2000s because they remind us that family, as one person said, family is all we have. Another person said family over everything. In truth, family matters. And so today, I just want to have a brief conversation with you about one of the ways our families can intentionally choose to flourish. My heart's conviction is that the greatest arena of relationships to invest in are those of your family relationships. I was speaking to a gentleman recently asking him about his pathway in professional life. He seemed to be very successful, had a number of indicators of that success. And so I wanted to talk with him about his journey and glean any wisdom that I could. And his responses were actually not what I expected. I thought he was going to be very industry specific, that he was going to outline for me certain sequential steps to take in order to achieve some of the success that he did. But do you know where his focus went? In that conversation, he spent the lion's share of his sharing talking about the value of family. He was very confessional, very transparent. He opened himself up to me to let me know he hadn't made all the best decisions. If he could turn the hand of time back and do some things over again, he would. But in that moment, kind of a senior man looking back and looking through to me, looking at me, as it were, looking back on his life through me, he said, if I could give you any piece of advice, here's what I would tell you. Prioritize your family. He said, I am closer to the end of my professional journey. And to get where I am, I'll be honest, I made some sacrifices that I regret. Now, his story is not everyone's story, but his story does shine light on the value of family. That at the end of the day, our family, that's who we have. I have, in my particular line of work, come alongside families during times of loss, and I've heard some of those solemn conversations that happen in the shadows and in the wake of loss, where families begin to look back and with the kind of clarity that really only comes with hindsight, they say things like, we should have taken that trip. We should have invested in this particular gift. They always wanted to have this conversation, and these things were never done. And they stand, as it were, in a pool of family regrets. And so as I glean from individuals like the man who says, always prioritize your family, as I think about different families who, after losing loved ones, they kind of have a long litany of regrets. I think it's so important that while we have life and while we have time, we make our best efforts to invest in those who matter most, our family. One of my favorite authors says it this way. His definition of success is this: I want those who know me the best to respect me the most. In other words, all of the accolades, all of the rewards, all of the applause, all of the affirmation is all for naught if those who see me when the lights are off and the cameras aren't rolling and I'm behind closed doors really have low grade respect for me. I like that definition and the sentiments behind it, because it lets me know at this stage and age in my life, if I make intentional investments in my family, then I believe returns on those investments will come as the days, months, and years go by. What about you? So today, here is one step towards flourishing families. Accept every member's unique contribution. It's so easy to feel as though the family is held together by a single individual, or maybe two or three, and overlook the contributions of other people in the family. But you know what I found? Even though people who are in families can point to those who are extroverted, those who may dominate conversations, those to whom everyone may look for, let's say, the final measure of influence to give us cues as to where we're going to go or what we're going to do, every family member has a contribution to make. And I want to suggest that even those family members that may be on the fringes, may not necessarily seem as though they have a contribution to make, they do. And what I found out is that our families begin to flourish and begin to move in the right direction when we acknowledge and honor and even affirm every person's unique contribution. You see, for that family member who contributes a detail-oriented way of thinking, there's another family member who contributes the kind of spontaneity that families benefit from. This is that family member who may not always have a plan, may not always be on time. They kind of are a tourist. They like to float through life. They kind of seem like they're flying by the seat of their pants, but they are drawn to certain things. And if you're around them at the right time, their spontaneity can lead you all to a refreshing experience that you wouldn't have had otherwise. You need both the detailed person and the spontaneous person. There's the dreamer, the person whose head is in the sky. They're always looking at the castles as though they are, even when they're not yet. But then there's the person who is going to bring it across the finish line. They can galvanize. They have a sense of tenacity, and you need them both. There's the quiet, silent observer, that member of your family who sits in the wings, in the corner, doesn't say much. If you didn't know he or she was in the room, you wouldn't know he or she was in the room. They're the individual when the large family gathering happens. They may come to the kitchen, make their plate of food, and then slip off to a room with a book or a cup of tea by themselves, and then come out when it's time to bid everyone good night. But there's that other family member who is louder than loud. You can hear them from miles away. They are the life of the party. If you get caught in conversation with this family member, you just have to put on your seatbelt, because it's going to be a long night of talking about golf or basketball or politics or money or any number of conversation items. And that person's going to make you think that they are well versed and informed on a wide variety of things, because in all actuality, they probably are. But there's the family member who loves to sit in the middle of the couch and call everyone together to watch the latest episode of Jeopardy or the Wheel of Fortune. And it's not their first episode. They've been watching the last 26. They can tell you all about the contestants and who's who, and how 2 episodes ago they didn't get an answer that they should have gotten, but in Final Jeopardy, they made it out and still won the game. I'm just talking about family contributions. And see, what can happen is, especially when families hit rough ground, tension points arise, and some pain is a part of the story, families can only value certain individuals' contributions and really not shine light on other people's contributions. This is where certain things like perceptions of family favorites arise, and there are persons who are seen to be on the inner circle of family decision making, and then there are those who are never really considered. But what if we changed our mindset? What if we had a shift in our thinking and in our relating to one another starting today? What if we began to think about those persons in our family and ask ourselves this question: what do they contribute to our family? And I want you to think positively, think affirmingly, think additively. We're talking about gain today, not deficits. It may not be money, it may not be land, they may not be the family member who's going to call the family up and say, hey, I'm taking everybody on a global tour, all expenses paid. But does this person contribute a listening ear, a caring heart, a compassionate word? Is this the person who often offers the timely joke just when everybody needed it most? Is this the family historian, the one who, how do they know this? They know everybody's name and everybody's children's names and the grandkids' names. They've got this picture of both your history, your present family experience, and they even are encouraging the family to grow. How does that happen? You have the person who is always there. They're going to show up, see you off at the airport, at basketball games. They're going to come to church if you invite them, because presence is their contribution. As you begin to think about the contributions of each family member, your sense of the value of your family grows. No, you may not be the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You may not be a part of the Winslow family. No, Archie Bunker may not be your father, and you're not one of the triplets in This Is Us. Those families all have their own concerns. Those families all have their own value. But there is no family like your family. So why don't you join my family and me? As all in the family, we look to each one and value each contribution. That's all for today. I can't wait to see you next time. And remember, keep all of the love, all of the joy, all of the highs, all of the lows, all of the twists and the turns. Hey, it's all in the family. I can't wait to see you next time. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless your kids. May God bless your dog, your cat, your goldfish, everybody. Let's keep it all in the family. We'll see you next time. Peace.